The Philippine legal codes. The following are the Philippine codes adopted from 1901 to the present. Act No. 2657. Also known as Administrative Code of 1917. Date: December 31, 1916. Act No. 2657. Chapter 3. Boundaries defined. Article I. Recognition of existing boundaries and seats of government. Section 46. Existing boundaries recognized. Except as hereinafter more precisely defined, the territorial limits and boundaries of the provinces, sub-provinces, municipalities, townships, and other political subdivisions, and their respective seats of government are not affected by the passage of this code, and until expressly changed pursuant to law or executive order the same shall remain as heretofore determined by decree, statute, executive order, or other resolution having the force of law, and in the absence of such, by custom recognized by the administrative authorities. Article 2. Defined boundaries. Section 47. Ambos Camarines and Tayabas boundary. The boundary separating the province of Ambos Camarines from the province of Tayabas begins at a point on the eastern shore of Basiad Bay and extends to a peak known as Mount Cadig in such manner as to bring the territory of the barrio of Basiad entirely within the municipality of Capolonga, in Ambos Camarines, and to exclude the same from the territory of Calauag, in Tayabas. From Mount Cadig it extends along the crest of a mountain range, a distance of 50 kilometers, more or less, to a peak known as Mount Labo, thence in a southwesterly direction, a distance of 25 kilometers, more or less, to a prominent stone monument at the source or headwaters of the Pass River, thence along the meandering course of said river in a southerly direction, a distance of 1.5 kilometers, more or less, to the Gulf of Ragay. 1468 1, Camp 150, X. Or 160, 1909, 574 1. Section 48. Ilocos Sur and Ambarayan boundary. The boundary between Ilocos Sur and the sub-province of Ambarayan, in the Mountain Province, is, in part, as follows, beginning at the Coast and Geodetic Survey Station called Bald Peak, north latitude 16 degrees 59 44.95 inches, east longitude 120 degrees 28 44.54 inches, thence S. 87 degrees 8 W, 3062.6 meters to a wooden cross on the west side of the main road and continuing on the same bearing 518 meters more or less to the seashore. Starting again at the above-mentioned Bald Peak and running thence S. 79 degrees 12 E toward a higher and prominent peak lying in the range of mountains to the east until this line intersects the present north and south boundary between Ambarayan and Ilocos Sur. 1646 1, Comp. 247. Section 49. La Union and Ambarayan boundary. The boundary between La Union and the sub-province of Ambarayan in the Mountain Province, is as follows, beginning at a point called Initial, from which the Tucutin Church Bell Tower, latitude 16 degrees 56 8.05 inches, east longitude 120 degrees 26 24.09 inches, bears N. 39 degrees 55.5 W, and the Bangor Church Cross, north latitude 16 degrees 53 43.50 inches, east longitude 120 degrees 25 8.94 inches, bears S. 54 degrees 6.5 W, the two latter being coast and geodetic survey points, thence S. 16 degrees 29.5 W. 2,899.9 meters to a point called Cruz, or A2, thence S. 22 degrees 24.5 E. 2,680.5 meters to a point called Bangor, north latitude 16 degrees 52 19.35 inches, east longitude 120 degrees 27 20.65 inches, which is a coast and geodetic survey station of the same name, thence S. 4 degrees 25 W. 1,560.3 meters to a point called Chow, or A6, thence S. 25 degrees 57.5 W. 2,958.2 meters to a point called San Francisco, or A7, thence S. 18 degrees 51.5 W. 1,706.4 meters to a point called Kalat, or X2, thence S. 4 degrees 56 W. 2,893 meters to a point called Bungkeo, or A9, thence S. 8 degrees 51.5 W. 3,268.2 meters to a point called San Jose, or AA10, thence S. 30 degrees 31 W. 4,464.7 meters to a point called Looking Number 1, or All, thence S. 20 degrees 23 W. 805.7 meters to a point called Looking Number 2, or A12, thence S. 24 degrees 14 W. 1,283.3 meters to a point called Hill, or A13, thence S. 2 degrees 21 W. 2,118.7 meters to a point called San Gabriel, or A14, thence S. 26 degrees 48.5 W. 1,460.5 meters to a point called Road, or X7, thence S. 10 degrees 7.5 E. 297.8 meters to a wooden cross set on the south side of the main road from San Juan to San Gabriel, thence on the same bearing, S 10 degrees 7.5 E. 1,409.7 meters to a point called Final, or X6, which point was the end of the boundary line and is at the junction of the Cabasatan and Brora, or Cadaclan, rivers. From Final the Coast and Geodetic Survey Station Saragossa, north latitude 16 degrees 42 32.27 inches, east longitude 120 inches 22 14.66, bears N. 29 degrees 49.5 W. 5,610.4 meters. 1,646 2. Comp. 248. Section 50. La Union and Benguet boundary. The boundary between La Union and the sub-province of Benguet, in the Mountain Province, is as follows. To reach the point of beginning, start at the point called Final, or X6, in the next preceding paragraph, thence up the Cabasatan River, which is in part the boundary line between the sub-province of Ambarayan and the province of La Union, to the point of beginning, thence beginning at the junction of the Cabasatan and Riachuelo rivers, thence in a curved line to the south around the barrio of Duplas, leaving that barrio in the province of La Union, till the line joins the Riachuelo River, thence up the Riachuelo River to the lowest place in the mountain ridge, thence crossing this ridge and descending on the southerly slope down the creek Alalapang to its junction with the Nagilian River and crossing the Nagilian River to a prominent point of rock known as Cruz to all the people of a large district, and which is the location of the boundary line in this section between the towns of San Fernando and Nagilian, the same being an old well-known landmark. Thence in the same direction over the hill about 1,000 feet to the creek Puldet, and following this creek Puldet to its source, thence crossing the ridge at the lowest point between the Mounts Ladug and Dukan to the Dukan River, thence down said Deccan River to its junction with the Salnip forming the Ribshuan River, thence down the Ribshuan to the junction of the Ribshuan River and the Baiting River, thence up the said Baiting River about 1 kilometer passing a monument of stone and cement erected in the time of the Spanish as a boundary mark between the districts of La Union and Benguet. Continuing to the mouth of the creek Lungis, thence up said creek to its source, the barrio of Encoy being in La Union province, thence through the lowest place in a direct line to a point called Siam on the opposite ridge, the same being further designated by a marked tree, thence down the river Cabang to its junction with the Galiano River, the same being just above the barrio of Galiano, Galiano being in the province of La Union, thence down the Galiano River in the same general direction to the mountain from which the river reverses its course, thence across this mountain spur to the base of Mount Alipang at the river Alipang, giving all the barrio of Rizal to the province of La Union, thence up said Alipang River to the barrio of Pugo, thence following the road known as Colreal to the barrio of Ambanganan. The barrio of Ambanganan being Christian, an offset is here made and thus described: from the river crossing of the Colreal continue up the river about 1/2 mile, thence in a direct line back to the Colreal at the foot of the hill about 1/2 mile from the river on the Colreal, forming an equilateral triangle. Thence, continuing on the line of the Colreal to a point overlooking the Inaban Valley, at which point a cross is ordered placed. From this point the boundary is to follow a direct line across the valley to a point between the barrios of Cuenca and Casalagan, very near Cuenca, the barrios of Casalagan, Inaban, and Garampang being in La Union, and Cuenca, San Luis, Enmastampa, Moaswas and Dagupan being in Benguet, to a cross on a hill directly west of Dongan, and thence from this point in a direct line to Dongan, Dongan being the boundary point between Benguet, Pangasinan, and La Union. X. Or. 11, 1909, 1642-4. Section 51. Part of boundary between La Union and Mountain Province. The boundary between the municipality of Banga, in the province of La Union, and the municipality of Tigdin, in the Mountain Province, is as follows, beginning at the point initial in the La Union and Ambarayan boundary as above described, thence s. 89 degrees 41 W, 1883.91 meters to a spike in the concrete base of an old monument, which bears s. 9 degrees 50 W, 2206.21 meters from Bureau of Lands Location Monument Number 2 of Tigdin, thence n. 71 degrees 55 W, 1948.23 meters, thence n. 55 degrees 28 W, 1185.5 meters to high tide line of the China Sea. X. Or. 100, 1915. Section 52. La Union and Pangasinan boundary. The boundary between the provinces of La Union and Pangasinan from the Lingayen Gulf to the Bude River is as follows. Beginning at a point in the mouth of the Raban River s. 4 degrees 58 E. 161.94 meters from Barrio Location Monument Number 2 of Raban and s. 88 degrees 40 W. 44.27 meters from an old brick monument in the west side of the railroad right-of-way, thence n. 88 degrees 40 E. 787.01 meters to the site of an old Spanish monument of 1856 at Nagcuralan, formerly marked by a wooden cross, replaced in 1913 by a concrete monument, being corner 24 of Surveyors 352, thence s. 88 degrees 08 T. 3214.77 meters to the site of an old Spanish monument of 1856 at Toblan, formerly marked by a wooden cross, replaced in 1913 by a concrete monument, being corner 25 of survey Rs 352, thence N. 88 degrees 03 E. 842.96 meters to the southwest corner of property decreed and G. L. R. O record 7299, being corner 52 of survey 2019, thence N. 87 degrees 42 E. 26.50 meters to a concrete monument, being corner 51 of survey 2019, thence N. 87 degrees 46 E. 214.97 meters to a concrete monument, being corner 50 of survey 2019, thence N. 87 degrees 52 E. 500.36 meters to a concrete monument, being corner 49 of survey 2019, thence N. 87 degrees 44 E. 500.21 meters to a concrete monument, being corner 48 of survey 2019, thence N. 87 degrees 51 E. 500.10 meters to a concrete monument, being corner 47 of survey 2019, thence N. 87 degrees 48 E. 500.14 meters to a concrete monument, being corner 46 of survey 2019, thence N. 87 degrees 48 E. 184.49 meters to a concrete monument set over the remains of an old Spanish monument of 1856, site formerly marked by a wooden cross, thence N. 87 degrees 48 E. 315.74 meters to a concrete monument, being corner 45 of survey 2019, thence N. 88 degrees 30 E. 137.40 meters to a concrete monument, being corner 44 of survey 2019, thence N. 87 degrees 51 E. 12.00 meters to the center of the Sayaitan Creek, being corner 43 of survey 2019 and the southeast corner of property decreed and G. L. R. O record 7299, thence N. 87 degrees 55 E. 1753.38 meters to a rock in place near the west bank of the Bude River, from which point Barrio location monument number 1 of Agat bears S. 58 degrees 39 E. 1033.41 meters, thence N. 87 degrees 55 E. 400.00 meters to a point in the approximate center of the Bude River, from which point Barrio location monument number 1 of Agat bears S. 41 degrees 10 E. 733.48 meters. X. Or. 91, 1915. Section 53. Boundaries of Sub-Province of Apayao. The sub-province of Apayao in the Mountain Province contains the territory embraced in the following boundaries. The eastern boundary shall be a line beginning in the hills immediately to the westward of the municipality of Claveria, in the province of Cagayan, and extending in a general southeasterly and southerly direction, between the settlements of Christians and of non-Christians, to the point in the hills immediately to the westward of Malayaga at which the boundary of the sub-province of Kalinga begins. Its southern boundary shall be the line fixed for the northern boundary of the sub-province of Kalinga. Its western boundary shall be the line fixed as the eastern boundary line of northern Abra and of that portion of Ilocos Norte which at present abuts upon the sub-province of Apayao, extending to a point directly to the west of the point of origin in the hills west of Claveria. Its northern boundary shall be a line extending due east from this point to the point immediately to the westward of the municipality of Claveria, at which the boundary begins. the general purpose in fixing this boundary being to include within the sub-province of Apayao all the non-Christian inhabitants of the province of Cagayan, as formerly constituted, west of the Rio Grande de Cagayan and north of Malayag. 1642 4, 1876, Comp. 157. Section 54. Benguet and Ambaran-Lepanto boundaries. The sub-provincial boundary between Benguet, on the south, and Ambaran and Lepanto, on the north, all in the mountain province, is as follows, beginning at the point where the watershed dividing the waters of the Ambaran River and its tributaries on the north from those of several smaller streams on the south flowing in a generally southwesterly direction through the sub-province of Benguet intersects the present eastern boundary of the province of La Union, and extending in a generally northeasterly direction medially along the crest of the above-described watershed and of the watershed which divides the waters of the Abra River and its tributaries from the waters of the Agno River and its tributaries to the point where the ridge forming the latter watershed leaves the face of the high mountain known as Mount Data, and thence in a straight line along the side of Mount Data to the point where the ridge or watershed between the Agno River and the streams of Nueva Vizcaya joins Mount Data. 768 1, Comp. 246. Section 55. Boundaries of Sub-Province of Kalinga. The Sub-Province of Kalinga, in the Mountain Province, has the following boundaries, beginning at a point in the hills immediately west of the former municipality of Malayag in the province of Cagayan, and extending to the hills immediately west of the municipality of Santa Maria in the province of Isabela, between the settlements of Christian natives and of non-Christian inhabitants, running thence southerly, between the settlements of Christians and non-Christians, to the Kalinga settlement of Sili, thence westerly to the boundary line of Nueva Vizcaya, thence along the present line of the northeasterly boundary of Nueva Vizcaya to its intersection with the boundary line of the sub-province of Bontoc, thence along the present easterly line of the sub-province of Bontoc to a point about halfway between the rancherias Lias and Dacalan, thence westerly to the crest of the mountain range between the Tanudan River and the Rio Chico de Cagayan, including the watersheds of said rivers in the sub-provinces of Bontoc and Kalinga, respectively, thence northerly along and following a line dividing said watersheds to the summit of Mount Patucan, near the rancheria of Bangad, thence to a point on the watershed west of Bangad, including that rancheria and the rancheria of Sumaydal with all their barrios in the sub-province of Bontoc, thence to a point in the vicinity and south of the rancheria of Balitok, thence and including the rancheria of Balitok and the rancherias of the Sultan River Valley to the easterly boundary of the sub-province of Abra, thence northerly along the easterly line of the present boundary of the sub-province of Abra to the vicinity of Dagara and the settlements of the southern branch of the Abulug River, and thence easterly to the point of beginning. X. Or 107, 1908. Section 56. Nueva Vizcaya and Ifugao boundary. The boundary between Nueva Vizcaya and the sub-province of Ifugao, in the Mountain Province, is in part as follows, beginning at the point where the Lamat River intersects with the southern boundary of the sub-province of Ifugao, as it existed prior to 1st of June, 1909, thence along said river to its union with the Magat River, thence along the Magat River to its union with the Alamit River. The remainder of said boundary coincides with the southern limits of the former Commandantia of Kiangan. X. Or 46, 1909. Section 57. Zamboanga and Lanao boundary. The boundary separating the province of Zamboanga from the province of Lanao begins at a point on the south shore of Panguil Bay 2 miles east of the intersection of the line of the old Spanish troca with the shore of said bay, thence in a southerly direction parallel with the line of the troca and 2 miles distant therefrom to Ilana Bay, including in the province of Zamboanga the town of Tucuran. 787-2. Section 58. Boundary between Misamis and provinces of Department of Mindanao and Sulu. The boundary separating the province of Misamis from the provinces of the Department of Mindanao and Sulu is as follows. A line beginning at a point on the parallel of 8 degrees 39-30 inches, north latitude, at its intersection with the meridian of 123 degrees 33-30 inches, east longitude, approximately 2021.7 meters west of Cabugan Island, running due south to the middle of the channel of Migpangal River, thence along said river to its mouth in Pangal Bay, thence along the south shore of Iligan Bay, thence along the southern and southeastern shore of Iligan Bay in an easterly and northerly direction to a point which is located on the east coast of Iligan Bay, on the west side of the trail to Iligan at Silimbal Point, about 1 kilometer south of the barrio of Lugate, thence s. 76 degrees 36-53 inches e. 1483.4 meters to point 2, s 56 degrees 0154 inches e. 764.9 meters to point 3, n 63 degrees 1426 inches e. 3148.9 meters to point 4, n 30 degrees 0653 inches e. 2218.8 meters to point 5, n 48 degrees 3546 inches e. 3565.8 meters to point 6, n 18 degrees 3649 inches e. 405.7 meters to point 7, n 18 degrees 37 minutes 9 seconds e. 689.1 meters to point 8, n 23 degrees 2342 inches e. 2025.8 meters to point 9, n 24 degrees 3116 inches e. 1480.9 meters to point 10, n 63 degrees 14 minutes 2 seconds e. 3685.4 meters to point 11, n 18 degrees 1855 inches e. 5357.6 meters to point 12, n 22 degrees 5047 inches e. 2492.7 meters to point 13, n 7 degrees 0158 inches e. 1291.3 meters to point 14, n 18 degrees 5938 inches w. 2003.9 meters to point 15, n 45 degrees 3352 inches e. 3309.2 meters to point 16, s 58 degrees 4159 inches e. 4173.6 meters to point 17, s 49 degrees 2317 inches e. 8535.6 meters to point 18, s 30 degrees 53 minutes 2 seconds w. 2425.9 meters to point 19, s 0 degrees 1338 inches w. 2295.9 meters to point 20, s 82 degrees 28 minutes 1 second e. 2093.1 meters to point 21, s 84 degrees 2021 inches e. 4801.4 meters to point 22, s 79 degrees 1656 inches e. 6349.4 meters to point 23, s 86 degrees 0006 e. 2146.9 meters to point 24, s 89 degrees 1254 inches e. 3,832.1 meters to point 25, N 89 degrees 09 55 inches E. 12,479.2 meters to point 26, N 83 degrees 31 30 inches E. 3,809.6 meters to point 27, N 4 degrees 52 15 inches E. 137.8 meters to point 28, N 28 degrees 24 53 inches W. 6,132.4 meters to point 29, N 43 degrees 14 minutes 0 seconds W. 2,176.5 meters to point 30, N 65 degrees 50 21 inches E. 5,146.1 meters to point 31, N 8 degrees 36 11 inches E. 7,891.8 meters to point 32, N 52 degrees 17 13 inches W. 2,370.4 meters to point 33, N 4 degrees 26 26 inches W. 1,336.8 meters to point 34, N 15 degrees 22 minutes 2 seconds W. 3,849.0 meters to point 35, N 8 degrees 03 18 inches W. 4,251.2 meters to point 36, N 8 degrees 28 51 inches W. 5,691.6 meters to point 37, N 18 degrees 17 50 inches E. 4,907.5 meters to point 38, N 71 degrees 54 23 inches W. 1,141.8 meters to point 39, N 10 degrees 08 56 inches W. 423.9 meters to point 40, N 11 degrees 50 50 inches E. 1,365.8 meters to point 41, N 67 degrees 15 36 inches E. 2,052.8 meters to point 42, N 28 degrees 0801 W. 717.2 meters to point 43, N 1 degree 1923 inches E. 3,793.5 meters to point 44, N 2 degrees 52 33 inches E. 9,877.8 meters to point 45, N 47 degrees 58 12 inches W. 1,583.1 meters to point 46, N 0 degrees 09 45 inches E. 1,621.2 meters to point 47, N 52 degrees 30 40 inches E. 3,647.5 meters to point 48, S 87 degrees 28 45 inches E. 3,626.4 meters to point 49, S 73 degrees 42 47 inches E. 9,902.7 meters to point 50, S 57 degrees 49 42 inches E. 6,673.6 meters to point 51, S 27 degrees 13 39 inches E. 4,473.2 meters to point 52, S 42 degrees 06 42 inches E. 6,956.4 meters to point 53, S 50 degrees 41 37 inches E. 2,477.5 meters to point 54, S 69 degrees 56 minutes 0 seconds E. 5,743.6 meters to point 55, N 65 degrees 0204 E. 8051.0 meters to .56, N 49 degrees 08 15 inches E. 5133.5 meters to .57, N 2 degrees 0201 W. 13,972.2 meters to .58, N 7 degrees 1144 inches W. 1056.2 meters to .59, N 39 degrees 2448 inches E. 1724.3 meters to .60, N 15 degrees 0033 inches W. 10,537.3 meters to .61, blazed relocated 10 meters from the edge of the northernmost point of rocks on Diata Point. Bearings from true meridian. 128-1, 787-1, 1693-1, X. Or 31, 1912. Section 59. Boundary between Bukidnon and provinces of Lanao, Cotabato, and Davao. The boundary separating the province of Bukidnon from the provinces of Lanao, Cotabato, and Davao is as follows, beginning at point 3 of the boundary line described in the next preceding section hereof, thence due east to the crest of the watershed dividing the waters which flow into Iligan Bay from those flowing into Macajala Bay, thence in a southerly direction along the crest of the said watershed to the 8th parallel of north latitude, thence along the 8th parallel of north latitude to a point due north of the highest peak of Mount Kalachungan, thence in a southerly direction to the headwaters of the main branch of the Mulita River, thence down the middle of the Mulita River to the mouth of the Bacto River, thence up the Bacto River in an easterly direction to its source, thence to the southernmost point of Lake Lamibibon, thence along the southern shore of said lake to its outlet, the Lamibibon River, thence down the Lamibibon River to the Pulangi River, thence down the Pulangi River to the mouth of the Tacuran River, thence up the Tacuran River to its source, thence due east to the crest of the eastern watershed of the Pulangi River, thence along the crest of this watershed to the 8th parallel of north latitude, X. Or 31, 1912. Section 60. Eastern boundary of province of Lanao. The eastern boundary of the province of Lanao begins at a point which is located on the east coast of Iligan Bay, on the west side of the trail to Iligan at Silimbal Point, about 1 kilometer south of the barrio of Lugate, thence S. 76 degrees 3653 inches E for a distance of 1,483.4 meters, thence S. 56 degrees 0154 inches E for a distance or 764.9 meters, thence due east to the crest of the watershed dividing the waters which flow into Iligan Bay from those flowing into Macajala Bay, thence in a southerly direction along the crest of the said watershed to the 8th parallel of north latitude. Departing at this point from the western boundary of Bukidnon, the said Lanao boundary runs thence south along the crest of the watershed dividing the waters flowing into Lake Lanao from those which flow into Macajala Bay and into the Mindanao River, thence south and west along the crest of said last mentioned watershed to the summit of Mount Beta, the highest peak south of Butique, thence south and west to Tugapangan Point. X. Or 31, 1912. Section 61. Agazan and Bukidnon boundary. The boundary between the provinces of Agazan and Bukidnon is formed by a line beginning at point 57 of the survey of the boundary line between the province of Misamis and the provinces of the Department of Mindanao and Sulu, which point is a peak about 800 meters in height called Mount Pigligajan and is situated about 5.5 kilometers east of the barrio of Odiangan, thence due east to the crest of the watershed dividing the waters which flow into Buchan Bay, and into the Agasan River from the waters which flow into Jingug Bay and into the Mindanao River, thence in a southerly direction along the crest of said watershed to its point of intersection with the 8th parallel of north latitude. Said line shall be so run as to bring the municipalities and settlements of the Agasan River Valley into the province of Agasan. 1693-1. Section 62. Agasan and Surigao Boundary. The boundary between the provinces of Agasan and Surigao begins at the point where the 8th parallel of north latitude intersects with the crest of the watershed between the Agasan River Valley and the Pacific Ocean, and runs thence in a northerly direction along the line of the crest of this watershed to the northern extremity of Mindanao. The general purpose being to include within the territory of Agasan all settlements west of the crest of the watershed in the peninsula of Surigao. 1693-1. Section 63. Cotabato and Davao Boundary. The eastern boundary of the province of Cotabato, separating said province from the province of Davao, is as follows, beginning at a point where the boundary separating the province of Bukidnon from the province of Cotabato leaves the eastern watershed of the Pulangay River, thence in a southerly direction along the crest of the said divide, which is sometimes known as the Apo Range of Mountains, to the southernmost peak of Mount Apo, thence along the watershed that divides the waters that flow into Davao Bay from those that flow into the Mindanao River and Sarangani Bay to Tinaca Point. 787-2, d.